Hi, everyone. Welcome to the STARS info session, and thank you for joining us. We'll get started with the event right at 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you have any tech questions, please utilize the Q&A function, and I'll answer those privately. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Arlena Sibillo, and I'm part of the Davidson Institute team, and I'm your host for today. We're excited to be here with you this morning, and before we dive into the STARS information session, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping points so you have an idea of what to expect in this session. All right, so this session is intended to run for 60 minutes. This session will include a presentation and be followed by a Q&A, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as we can in the time allotted. Would like to point out that this is in a Zoom webinar setting, and it is designed so that staff can share their video, audio, and screen, but attendees are in view-only mode. Please note that the chat feature of Zoom has been enabled, and we do ask that you please direct all of your questions to the Q&A feature. We would hate to miss any of the questions submitted into the chat. Please stay through to the end of the session. You will then be directed to our post-event survey to help gather feedback on your experience. And recording of this live webinar will be available on the Davidson Gifted website within a week. And so now, just diving right into the session, I'm pleased to introduce you to Kayla Latin, our Director of Summer Programs here at the Davidson Institute. I'll hand over the presentation to you now, Kayla.
Awesome. Thank you, Arlene, and welcome everybody. I am looking forward to going through and sharing more about our STARS summer camp this morning. Get my presentation up here for you guys. And we'll dive in here in just a second. So again, welcome. I'm the Director of Summer Programs, and just really excited to talk about STARS today. If you've been in the Young Scholars Program for a while, or your student has attended STARS in the past, there are not any really big program major changes that we're implementing this year, so some of this information might sound really similar to what you're familiar with. However, it's always great to have a refresher, and we'll be going through the academic sessions and reviewing the lottery admissions process again, so stay tuned. But before we jump in, we'll start with a few quick polls. And our first one, I just would love to get to know more about who's joined today. So our first poll that Arlene has released should have popped up on your screen, is asking if your student has attended an overnight summer camp before, and maybe not quite a summer camp, but a different kind of enrichment program. I would count that as well. And so this is just an interesting poll to see. Typically at this age range, it's hit or miss whether students have attended one before or not. But it is something that can be helpful in preparing for STARS, although often STARS is the first summer camp for some of the students this age range. Okay, like I just mentioned, often it's the first summer camp for students in this age range. So it looks like 82% of our attendees here, their student has not attended overnight camp, but a little portion, about 18%, have. Awesome. In our next poll, seeing the age range of who is also here today, who has students who are maybe under 8 and looking at stars in the future. Students do need to be ages 8 through 11 to attend stars, but maybe you're attending the session today to learn more. Are they 8, 9, 10, or 11, or maybe they over 11 and you're not aware that stars unfortunately wouldn't be an option for them next summer if they will be over 11 by the time June 16th hits. Okay, awesome. So majority of our students are either 8, 9, or 10, and we have just a few that are maybe under 8 or 11, or maybe even a couple that are over 11. So we'll talk a little bit more about that eligibility soon. And then lastly, our last and third final poll is just getting a sense of who has major questions in what areas. We're going to go through all of these. So please just keep that in mind. That the presentation does cover all these topics, but I'll try and do my best and focus on certain areas depending on who's here today and what you're interested in learning more about. Okay, awesome. Looks like most are looking for information on the lottery application process, that's more towards the end of the presentation, but we do go into detail about that. We'll also be covering eligibility and readiness, student life, the sessions, the schedule, and it looks like our some people are looking for more information about health support and for students with disabilities. So we'll talk about that as well. Awesome. So first and foremost, as we jump into our presentation, I just wanted to introduce the full-time summer team. Again, I'm Kayla and I'm the director. This will be my 11th or 12th summer coming up, and I'm just looking forward to summer again. I can't believe we're just about to ring in the new year, and that's kind of the big turning point for our prep timeline, where we get to really dig into getting everyone set up and ready to come to camp. We also actually do have here joined us today is Avery and Gabby, and they're both on our full-time summer team working in the background. They'll be helping answer any Q&A questions via typing, because we tend to get a lot in this session, and so it's hard to answer all of them live at the end. So please do use that Q&A function if you have specific questions, and they will get back to you there, and some of them will be left at the end for me to talk about live as well. Avery is our manager and Gabby is our program support specialist, and they have such a great passion for camp, and so I'm so glad that they're here today to assist us and help get some answers to your questions. All right, so as I mentioned, we will be talking about all these topics today. First, we'll start with just an overview of what STARS is and what makes students eligible to attend STARS. Then we'll talk about a little bit about the staff that are at STARS, watching over students and running the program. We'll go dive into the schedule and student life, talk about the 2024 academic sessions, a little bit about health and wellness and travel to and from the program, how to prepare for STARS, and then lottery admissions with a Q&A portion at the end. Okay, so more about STARS. So some of you may be here today that are interested in this program, but your student's not a current member of the Davidson Young Scholars Program. However, that is first and foremost one of the biggest eligibility requirements. So this camp was created and set up specifically for those who are enrolled in the Young Scholars Program. And we are located in Reno, Nevada, and all of our programming occurs on the University of Nevada, Reno campus. It's really beautiful in the summer, and they've done a lot of new construction and building in and around the Davidson Academy and dorms area. And so it's just really nice to be on campus in the summer. I'm an alum of the university, and so it's fun being back there every summer and working with the young students. STARS is specifically for students who are 8 to 11-year-old during program dates. So the 2024 dates are down there at the bottom. It's Sunday, June 16th through Thursday, June 20th. And that leads right up into the summit weekend. And so if your family is in the Young Scholars Program, you're aware of what the summit is, and that's a fun kind of like a family social conference weekend for young scholar families to get together. There's keynote speakers, workshops, lots of different social mixers. And so STARS leads right up to when the summit starts later that day on Thursday, June 20th. It is 5 days, 4 nights. So kind of speaking to students who have never attended a summer program, it's a really nice length we found for a first time away from home for more than a couple nights. It's only 4, so usually students do really well with that as a first experience. And we have 3 different academic sessions. They also attend field trips, social activities, different things like that. And we'll talk more about that at the schedule. So eligibility, like I mentioned, first and foremost, students have to be a young scholar. If you're currently applying to that program, please be in touch with the Young Scholars admissions team to make sure that you're getting in before the lottery application opens and closes. If you have any questions about that, I have their email at the end of the presentation, and they can do their best to assist you, or we can get you in touch with them as well. They must be 8 to 11 years of age during the program dates, and typically we're pretty strict about this. And so if your student's turning 8 during the dates, we do consider those applications as well. So they happen to not turn 8 until the 18th or 19th during STARS, that's okay. They're still eligible to apply, and we will review their application for readiness. And or if they're 11 and they're turning 12 during that week too, but they still want to attend STARS as their first experience rather than our other summer camp REACH, which is for 11 to 13-year-olds, that is okay as well. So students must be, though, within that 8 to 11 age range during program dates. And then our essential functions of a STARS student are really important. And so these are listed out on our website on our eligibility section for STARS. We got this question a lot during registrations about wanting to know if there's communication with students during camp. And we have a fully connected community at camp, meaning students and staff are fully connected with one another in the STARS community. We're a true summer camp, just like sending your student out into the woods for a summer camp experience. We like to compare it to that, where they aren't going to have cell phones and communication with their parents and family members during camp. We do have some options for families to leave letters that we can pass out in the mornings or evenings to students during their stay so that the student feels a little bit more connected. Or different things like that. But our staff are in contact with parents as needed, of course, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But there is no direct communication with kids unless, of course, there's some sort of emergency. Students will be sharing a room with usually 2 other participants. And so this is another thing just to consider, depending on your student's readiness to be in an environment where they're having to share their space during those bedtime routines for sleep. Often that's something they've maybe never experienced before, and that's okay. It's hard to know how they'll do, but they have like their own little cabin in their room of them plus 2 other roommates. So just something to consider. They must be able to fall asleep generally difficultly without a lot of support. Some students have wanted to bring a nightlight, and that's totally okay. There's plenty of plugs and places we can put those things to kind of keep it away from the other roommates, to hopefully if they need darkness and things like that. But generally, our rule of thumb is those things are hopefully really kept to a minimal use. They need to function within a schedule that only allows up to about 9 hours of sleep per night. Again, that's on the minimum side. Typically, students can actually get more than 9 hours of sleep. It's only 4 nights. It's a jam-packed schedule in order for us to get to our field trips and breakfast in the morning and get through all of our things during the day. This is kind of the best our schedule can do for sleep, and we are totally aware a lot of students in this age sleep more than this at home regularly. However, we find that they're excited, they do well at camp. They might be tired at the end, but they're generally do great with the schedule. And like we said, we can help those who are really sleep sensitive get to bed a little bit on the earlier side of the window, so to hopefully get maybe even 10 hours of sleep at night. They need to be able to follow directions from adults other than their parents or caregivers. So they need to be able to listen to our staff members. That's huge for safety. They will be without access to electronic devices that have the ability to connect to the internet and or voice and text capabilities. That includes things with the internet disabled. So they can bring, if they want music or cameras, there's definitely plenty of devices out there that don't have the ability to connect to the internet. If it has the ability, even with it's disabled, we do not allow it at camp, just to continue with that fully connected community piece. So just regular digital or throwaway cameras are best. And then like an MP3 player versus or like an iPod Touch. I think I'm saying that right. Things like that, where it's not like a smartphone or smart device. They need to be able to ask for help if a problem or a concern arises, and we go through how they can reach us and ask for help during the day and at night during orientation. But that is something that a skill they need to have. And most students who are in school or are around other adults throughout the year have no problem with that. And then lastly, operate independently under supportive supervision with regard to self-care. So we give reminders about showering and brushing teeth and doing hygiene for bedtime, but they need to be able to operate and actually do that themselves. We also provide support for meal selection, especially with those who have special dietary needs and or allergies. We provide support and help them find those options and things like that, but they still need to be able to help interact and communicate with their staff on their needs and to be able to express what they're looking for and things like that and what they're able to eat. We go through all of that with families with allergies and special dietary needs leading up to camp so that we're prepared. But they need to be able to generally pick their own meal with support from our staff. And then emotional regulation as well. There's lots of transitions throughout the day. Students generally need to be able to, there's lots of space for breaks and time for quiet reflection and different things like that. But overall be in a space where they can attend a 5-day 4-night summer camp and have some coping skills if they are feeling like they're getting a little bit stirred up with their emotions and regulating some of that. So if you have any questions about this, please contact us. We would love to talk to you about eligibility. It's a great, especially if your student's on the 8 or 9-year-old younger side and you're not sure if they meet one of these or not. We would love to have a conversation with you and address that, and we can share more about what that actually looks like during day-to-day at camp. And that back and forth conversation can be really insightful to help parents understand more about what support we do provide and if a student would be ready or not, because we want to set them up for success to be able to attend. A little bit more about STARS. So why send your student to summer camp? There's so many benefits. I could spend a ton of time on this slide and provide even more information if we had all day, but we don't. So I'll just kind of jump through this. But some of our biggest benefits of STARS is first and foremost meeting other young scholars and like-minded peers. So that is huge. Because all the students are in the Young Scholars Program, they've all been identified as that profoundly gifted level. And often a lot of students are coming from all across the country in their home environments. They don't have a lot of friends that are like them. They don't have a lot of students who work at that level, think at that level, and developmentally are similar to them. And so often they have hard time making friendships, or even if they do have friends, there's often students who aren't quite like-minded. And so they come to camp and everyone there is like them. Of course, everyone's got their unique characteristics as well, but overall it's a community with a lot of different people and friends that are similar to them, and that's huge at camp. They're able to explore new academic topics that are hopefully challenging to them because we hire Davidson Academy instructors to teach those in purpose to challenge them at their level, which is really exciting, especially if they are in an educational home environment where they're maybe not getting a lot of that. It's a great way to grow independence and skills. So just being away from home and mom and dad and caregivers in your home for a 5-day 4-night experience grows a lot of confidence. Building confidence right below that, self-confidence, but it grows a lot of independence and skills. So often we see families when their students get home, they do get a little bit of they have a little more sense of self-confidence. They have a little bit more sense of independence. They've maybe learned some new skills of how to do some things like we don't make them do laundry or anything like that. That's more older kids camps, but just really learning how to speak for themselves, self-advocate, different things like that. Be in a community with a ton of other people in a learning environment, and that they're sharing with others. They come away with a bunch of new skills. They'll experience living on a university campus, which is also really exciting. Even at this young age, they love getting to walk around campus, where college kids spend their school year. Being in the university housing is also really exciting. And they have lots of fun. So it's still summer camp too, even though we do academics. We have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of camp type of fun in the evenings for our evening activities that I'll talk about here in a little bit as well. Okay, staff. So we hire a really big seasonal team. So there's 3 of us year-round, full-time, that are prepping for camp all year. It takes all year to get these camps up and running, and for applications to be processed, and instructors to be hired, and numerous of other things. But we hire seasonal staff in the summer to help care for the students. And our summer team is consisted of quite a few different people. So we I guess this is a little bit out of order. Our biggest pool of people that we hire are program assistants, and that's just our fancy word for camp counselors. We call them program assistants, or PAs for short. And they are a tried and true camp counselor role. They are assigned to a group of 6 to 7 students at STARS. Their own private dorm room is housed right next to the other students' rooms. So they're really close proximity in the evening to their students, and they're in charge of counting, walking with the students to and from activities. They're their point of go-to during the day if the student needs anything, or they lost their water bottle, or they're not feeling good, or just a person to talk to about how excited they are and how much fun they're having. Their camp counselor is their go-to. We also have a lead program assistant who is like a secondary support for our program assistants to provide guidance. They're usually a program assistant who's done camp before, not always, but often. And so they're help provide guidance to the PAs. They're a fill-in if a PA needs a break to help with the students. And we also have that built-in extra support. In addition to that, we have residential supervisors, and they are a leadership role that is on site and lives in the dorms on the same floor as well. And they're kind of the go-to for the program assistants for any concerns and needs. They sleep in the floor on the floor overnight as well, and provide a lot of communication back to our full-time team of me, Gabby, and Avery, and help lead and run our activities alongside the program assistants. We have health supervisors. We usually have two who work the summer, but one is usually there, at least one is there overnight in the dorm floor as well, which is so great at this age range to have a nurse on site overnight for if there is somebody who, maybe ate the wrong thing and isn't feeling super great, their tummy hurts at night, or they got a cut during activities and they need some tender care from a nurse. Our health supervisors do a wonderful job with this age range and provide a really good level of comfort for the students. We also hire our instructors every summer, and like I mentioned, our full-time leadership team is there pretty much really early in the morning to really late at night. We just don't sleep overnight in the dorms, but we're on call at all times overnight as well. So we have a really big team that we hire in the summer to run STARS, and we provide 24/7 supervision. So we got that question quite a bit too. Students are never without staff. So we always have our camp counselors with our students, and they do go on break during academic sessions in the afternoon. And at that point, our leadership team, depending on who's there, it could be a combination of residential supervisors and the full-time leadership team are on site to provide supervision in addition to the instructors and volunteer teaching assistant students as well. So students are never unsupervised. They have 24/7 supervision when they're in their rooms at night sleeping. There's only students in the student rooms, but our counselors are right next door in their own private room. And we're on our own private locked floor in the dorms, which I'll talk about here soon. We are members of the American Camp Association, which is a really huge national association, and it's where we derive a lot of our policies and standards. We attend the annual conference usually every February, and it provides a lot of great improvement opportunities for us, and it's just a great resource for us as we for guidance every year for things we should be implementing or changing or doing differently. And so I just wanted to shout out that we are members of that. It's a wonderful resource for us. Okay, the much anticipated schedule. First day, arrival day. So Sunday, June 16th, that's the date this year for STARS for arrival day. And what does that first day look like? Most of the morning is going to be spent, depending on how families choose to do this, but they'll be traveling to STARS and checking in. Check-in starts usually around noon. And so a lot of families get up early and they're flying or driving to camp that morning. Some fly in the night before and stay in a hotel, depending on how far away they are. Excuse me. And students, just like last summer, must be checked in and out by a parent guardian. I'll talk a little bit in the travel section about other options for that. Then the rest of the afternoon, right after check-in's about a 2-hour window, is spent doing some dorm setup. So we do a kiss and go check-in. Parents work with our staff to get them all checked in and set up at the different stations. And then we say goodbye, and our staff takes students up to the dorm floor and help them get settled, get their linen packets and their bed set up, meet their roommates, answer any questions they might have, show them where the nurse room is, show them where their counselor room is. It's just really a time to kind of adjust, meet people, and settle in. And then we go straight into orientation and activities for the night. So we spend a long time in orientation going through, we give them all the different rules and policies. We talk about our camp values, what we're going to be doing in the schedule, the different, like we always make students wear their lanyards for safety so we can identify everyone and know their names. We talk about um, where to go in emergencies, who to follow, how to listen for all those kinds of things, how we walk to and from events around campus. We talk about that even so that we can do that safely. We talk about just what kind of camp community environment we want, and then we do lots of icebreakers and social kind of get to know one another things. So it's spent, they're really fun, and so it's really fun to see the students by the end of the first night already have maybe made some friends, some learning to get to know everyone, and get to know their camp counselors as well and the rest of the staff. We do some really fun staff introductions, go to dinner, and then we end the night with a really fun camp activity. Usually it's like decorating their camp t-shirt, different things like that. And then usually everyone's really excited but ready for bed that first night because it's been a fun long day. All right, and then our 3 main days of the program, days 2 through 4, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all look really similar, but they're jam-packed with different things each day. So each morning we head to breakfast by about 8 a.m. and right after breakfast we head into our field trip, and that varies each morning. So the tentative ones we're looking to implement this year, and I say tentative because this is the time of year when we're booking those, and sometimes they change between now and late spring. So, but what we're hoping to have this year is the Natural History Museum on campus. The students love that one. There's lots of great animal information that's shared and different things like that, and they get to learn a lot through like a guided tour, and usually they do a scavenger hunt sometimes. Then we'll do hopefully a Discover Chemistry Lab. We've done this one at STARS. I don't think we did it this past summer, but the year before, and the students love it. The chemistry department graduate students put on a whole demonstration and workshop. The students get to learn chemistry concepts and see different experiments happen, and it's really exciting learning filled field trip. And then we're also hopeful to implement a music workshop with a Davidson Academy instructor this year as well. And so more to come on those this spring. Right after our field trip, we head back to the dorms and we have a whole hour of dorm time. So students every year love dorm time. It's just free time in the dorms. Of course, it's supervised and there's some boundaries and limits with what they can do, but overall, it's just free time. Some students need that hour before lunch. It's been a big morning, so they just kind of spend some quiet time in their room or in our Zen Den. We have a Zen Den room on campus or on our dorm floor that is meant to be a quiet coloring space for students to just kind of get away from the noise of all the other students who are playing. And it's just a great regroup time. They can rest, they can do whatever they need to do, play a card game with their new friends, things like that. Then we head into lunch. And right after lunch, we head into a bunk meeting, and this is just a small group calm time. So we kind of came from our field trip, dorm time, and lunch where we're all together in these big groups. And then we get into our camp counselor small bunk groups. So it's that one camp counselor to about 6 or 7 students. And they just, maybe they play a little icebreaker game or they do a little debrief questioning, different things like that, just to kind of bring the energy down before we head into academic sessions. And then academic sessions are 3 hours long from 2 to 5. However, instructors give lots of great breaks during that time. And they'll get to go to all 3 academic sessions. So they'll rotate through them each day. And then after that, we head into a little bit of outside time where they just left class and now they need to run around, or maybe they need to rest again. They can rest outside as well, but we play outside for a little bit before we head to dinner. And then after dinner is our evening activities. These are also tentative, but typically they consist of an arts and crafts and board games night, movie night, which usually also has another board games or other option if they don't want to watch the movie. And then our final night on Wednesday is our water games and final celebration night. And it's a huge high energy night where they play different games to earn tickets, and then they vote for which program assistant gets pied in the face, and it's the best fun night. Everyone talks about it usually for days and weeks afterwards of who got pied and how fun it was, and they love getting to vote. And usually there's the ones that get voted for are like the favorite program assistants typically, and so it's really exciting to see who gets pied each summer. And then we bring the energy down again with another bunk meeting to debrief from the day, calm our bodies down and our minds down a little bit. Then we head back down to the dorms and help students do their evening routines, hygiene reminders for the morning the next day, getting everyone into bed, and lights out by about 9 p.m. And then the last day, departure day, Thursday, consists of a little bit of an earlier breakfast time so that we can get through our closing activities, which includes a slideshow. So we're constantly taking pictures, and I'll talk about how we send those home during the week so parents can see. But the students haven't seen any of them, so we compile them in a slideshow and we play it, and they love the slideshow because they point out when they see themselves or their friends, and they get to just kind of reflect on the week. It's a great time. They sign thank you cards for their camp counselors, and they can sign each other's camp t-shirts. That's usually a big thing. Some recreational different things will happen as well. Then we head back to the dorms and we spend some time packing and cleaning their rooms, getting them all ready for checkout, goodbyes, and departures by about 10 a.m. Okay, student life. I know we get lots of questions every year about what the housing looks like and dining too, so we'll jump into that now. Okay, housing. So we stay typically in Argenta Hall. We're hoping to be back in there again. The dorm setup, we have our own floor on, we take over a whole floor in Argenta. So it's only our students, only our staff on that floor, and it's key card access in. And we provide linens. So it's a short camp. We provide linens for this. Your students welcome to pack an extra pillow or blanket that they love that will help them feel comforted, but linen packets are provided that has sheets, towels, pillowcase, and a blanket. So those are all provided. Each room has 3 beds, 3 dressers, 3 desks, and there's one little shared closet area, and then there's a shared sink area, and then behind a private door in that room is the toilet and shower. And so we ask all students to do their changing in the shower toilet area so that they're not doing it in front of their roommates. But otherwise the room is pretty shared, with the sink area shared as well. And within our floor, like I said, we have our main staff room where we just have that's our powwow area for us to get everyone set up for program assistance. There's lots of different resources in there and things like that, but they can always find us in there often as needed. The program assistants, again, have their own private rooms right near their students. So they're kind of like, students are clustered throughout the floor in their little camp counselor groups. We point out to students where the nurse health supervisor room is, and it's usually got like a wallpaper or wrapping paper on the door, and like it's very obvious where the nurse room is so that they can find that easily as needed. We also have a big common room area in the middle where we play games and we gather to line up to leave for activities. And things like that. So at nighttime at STARS, we go through an orientation, how students, if they wake up and they need somebody at night, how to go through that process. Typically, we tell them to go to their camp counselor and knock and wake up, but for some reason, if the student's not feeling comfortable doing that, they can always go to their nurse as well. And they're provided with 2 or 3 different people that they can check in with. But our residential supervisors have a really good ear in the evenings for if anyone's waking up and they're hearing some commotion on the floor as well. So we go through all of that in orientations, and students usually have a lot of comfort with being able to find people at night as needed. Dining. So we dine in the resident dining hall. It's called the Down Under Cafe, and it's a buffet style dining hall. So we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and the meals vary every day. We also give snacks out, one during the field trip, and then one during academic sessions, and then typically our evening activity also provides a snack. So the students are well fed at camp. We like to make sure that they're energized and they're getting what they need. We also cater to special diets and food allergies. If your student's really on the severe side, we would love to have a conversation with you just to make sure that's something we can support. But typically the university staff is really great at supporting those needs. They deal with it all year long with college students, and then our experience of doing camp for so many years now, they've also done a great job with our younger students who have special diets and needs. Sometimes that can even look like them cooking a separate meal for the student, separate from what's available, or it's just going through out of the options that we have provided. Here's what they can or can't eat, things like that. They're welcome to bring their own snacks. We do say avoid nuts due to that being such a common allergy. And they can bring those and keep those in their dorm rooms or keep them in their a little backpack with them throughout the day. And then we also go to the Wolf Shop, which is our like bookstore on campus for the university, and there's snacks for purchase there. So often students are so excited to buy snacks there as well. Okay, a little bit more about academics at STARS. So we have 3 different sessions. I'll just quickly go through these. They are now posted as of yesterday on our website, so you can go and check them out. Again, all students will attend all 3 academic sessions, and they'll rotate through those on the 3 main days. We hire Davidson Academy instructors to teach them, so they work with profoundly gifted students all year during the school year, and they're great at challenging this age range and making it really engaging and fun. And it's meant to be hands-on exploration of topics that are unique and interesting for these STAR students. The first one that I'll kind of briefly talk about is physics of waves. We usually have a physics class every year, and Brett Giusti has been teaching at STARS for many years. He does always some hands-on concepts with this one, and so I'm really excited to have him back this year. Next one is poetry through music. So Sarah is a newer instructor to the Davidson Academy, and we're so excited. She has some great ideas here this summer to really engage students in this reading and writing session, those who are really into reading and writing and those who might not be as into that should have fun in this. There's going to be a lot of collaborative playing games that go through the poetry concepts, and we're going to tie it all in with music. So we're really excited for this one. And then lastly, we're going to have a coding session this summer at STARS. So Callie is implementing a really fun session where students are going to create their own coding program. And those who have maybe some programming experience coming into STARS, she has a plan for getting them a little bit higher level if they've already learned and done these things before. So she's definitely able to differentiate as needed. But we're really excited about this one for students to play with their own program. And I think they'll be able to go home and continue working on it as well. Again, they're meant to be challenging, hands-on exploration of topic. There's no credit or grade reports or things like that. General classroom skills are helpful but not required. So those who are maybe homeschooled and have less of a classroom environment skill, totally okay. Just things to keep in mind to talk about your student, maybe like reminders of trying to remember to raise their hand before they're blurting out answers, things like that. But our teachers are great at working with students throughout that excitement of being at camp and learning and knowing answers and things like that. They have volunteer Davidson Academy students who are acting as TAs, and they're checking in with students, helping run the classroom and behavior management as well. Okay, health and wellness. I'll quickly go through this since we're moving along here in this session. Pre-program, we implement and take in all of your information. So health history form, insurance cards, a recent physical exam, immunization records, and information about medications, all required. Health history form provides space for students, parents to share about students' diagnoses. So I didn't quite talk about that yet in academic sessions yet, but if your student does have dysgraphia or other type of academic-based disabilities that we need to take into consideration during academic sessions, there's space for that there. You can also email us specifically if you have concerns, and we work with those parents to make sure those students are supported during class time. We typically haven't run into issues with supporting any of those types of twice exceptional alities in the classroom in previous years. Again, these instructors work with students like this all year round. So their twice exceptionalities are common, and we're happy to work with parents on making sure those students are supported. We are always subject to UNR's policies and protocols, so just keeping that in mind when it comes to immunization records and things like that. But we all intake that, and our health supervisor reviews it and will reach out with families that she might have concerns for medical things or just questions to make sure that we are appropriately prepared for your student. Then during the program, all students are health screened upon check-in. That's really important to make sure nobody's coming in with symptoms or fevers. We collect all medication, even vitamins and over-the-counter medication. Exceptions are rescue medications such as EpiPens and inhalers. Those can be kept on students or their camp counselor. And then our health supervisors on site daily and overnight. Travel. Okay, so getting to STARS and getting back home. We do not provide airport supervision or shuttle services. Just like last year, that's going to continue for this year. So participants must be signed in and signed out by a parent or legal guardian, and are responsible for getting their student to and from the program. However, you can designate an alternative adult contact over the age of 25 to check your student in and out. This year, we're going to have an opt-in form of some kind for parents to then be included in a way to connect with each other prior to camp, and doesn't all have to be about travel. It can be about connecting with who's coming and just learning more about STARS from returning students and things like that. However, that's going to be a great resource if you're hoping to not travel with your student and have them fly with another adult parent from your local area, things like that. Just keeping in mind that if you're trying to have your student fly independently, often airlines designate this age range as unaccompanied minors, and that parent that you are designating would have to wait at the airport gate for your student to get off the plane and then bring them to camp, which they might be flying in at a similar time and can totally do that. So just things to consider, but you're able to, we had lots of families last year work with other parents to kind of carpool in a sense and help each other out for check-in and check-out. So tentative check-in, it'll for sure be Sunday, June 16th, but the time is tentative 12 to 2 p.m. And then checkout will be Thursday, June 20th, but the tentative time is 10 a.m. to noon. Communication. So I said but previously that Davidson's a fully connected community. And so we want to be fully connected. We don't want to be tied to devices. We want to provide a space and environment where students can get off screens and connecting with one another and not have those distractions. And so cell phones and tablets and things like that are not allowed at STARS, but please know that we are constantly in communication with parents as needed. So all parents receive regular program emails every day with updates on what we did at camp during the day and a release of photos throughout the day and evening for them to enjoy of what we were doing too. So we post a lot in there. Some days have hundreds of photos, some days have 100, some have 300. So lots of photos for you to see what's going on at camp and see all the fun that we're having. We definitely reach out if your child needs medical care and the health supervisor wants to notify you. She tends to be on the extra side of notifying at STARS because, you know, the kids are younger and she wants to keep parents in the loop. But a little cut or a scrape is not always going to be reported. But most often, if your student's needing to take, they're having an upset tummy and they're needing to take medication, you do have the option to say you have to be notified every time, or often she'll just notify at the end, if you're okay with your student getting those OTCs as needed. We also often reach out to parents when we need support for academics, behavior, and student care. So if your student gets to camp and we're seeing some things going on that we're concerned in the classroom or just for general behavior or even other type of student care, we reach out. So we will call, most often it's a phone call, because it's such a short camp. Email is a little bit slow in communication, but sometimes it is a quick email. However, usually we're calling home and we're just checking in. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we're seeing from your student. What's worked well at home, any tips or ideas that you might have for us, and keep you in the loop, and then you can help us care for your students. So we're doing that often. However, I will say no news is good news. And so please keep that in mind, that if we're not reaching out, it's great. It's good news that things are going well. And then of course, if something goes on at camp or on university that causes us to change plans or protocols, we let families know as well. Okay, how can you prepare for STARS? One thing I wanted to point out, Avery will be sharing it in the chat, is a link to the parent resources section, which is linked in our summer programs home page area, and within each STARS Reach and Think, our other camp home pages. The parent resources is where the meat of all of our program-wide policies live. And so each STARS Reach and Think, our other camps, each camp has its own, tuition, and it has its own page on how to apply and things like that. But all the other information about how Davidson Summer Programs runs and works and our policies, and the meat of all of that, is in the parent resources section. So the getting ready area, both these boxes are on the same page. You just have to scroll, but the getting ready area is super important. We talk about health and medical care and what that looks like. Homesickness, there's a whole section on how to prepare for that there. I highly recommend heading to that area. Our program handbook will be linked there. Right now, 2024 is going to look really similar to 2023. So 2023 is linked right now, and when we release 2024, that'll be available soon. But you can read 2023 to get an idea if you'd like to. All of our travel information hasn't been quite released yet, but that'll be available in that area. Packing lists, super important. And then all of our policies for supervision, our communicable illness plan and policies, super important for immunization information and things like that. Electronic devices, we really go into detail here what is or isn't allowed at STARS, and if you have questions, you can email us. And then how we communicate at STARS. Okay, so is beyond just kind of generally talking about the eligibility list, is the program a good fit? So things just to reconsider. It's a 5-day, 4-night experience. If your student has never slept away from home at all, even with grandparents or friends or family members, it doesn't mean that they're not eligible and it's not a good fit, but it's might be something you want to practice prior to camp. It might be something that they have a hard time with, or maybe they do great with. And so just something to consider if you're trying to think through if this summer is great for STARS for your student. Students who want to attend and express interest, so looking at the website together, and I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next page too, but the more you can do that with your student, the more they're going to feel confident and excited to go, and that's a huge indicator that they're ready. They're going to be sharing a room with other participants, so they'll have roommates, and so it's just something to consider if that is something your student has some sort of unique need where that would be a really big struggle. We do not offer the option to have a single room. There's not enough room for that. So please reach out to us if you have questions. They will not have cell phones or ways to access home. If they are feeling homesick, we have lots of different ways we train our staff. They can write a letter home and we give it to you at checkout, things like that. There's not enough time to mail it home, but things like that we can do in the moment. So they do journal back, tell mom and dad about how your day was. There's a way to feel connected with home without having their cell phone as well. They need to be able to follow direction from us, which is super important, number one, for safety, but also just for them to be able to go along with the schedule and flow of the program. Operating independently under supportive supervision for self-care, hygiene, things like that, that's super important. And then again, falling asleep without difficulty. So if your student has really big sleep needs, please reach out to us and let's have a conversation about whether that can be supported at camp. You can, we have a STARS like promo video linked on our STARS homepage. That is a great resource to watch with your student. It's pretty short, but it might get them excited when they're looking at the images of camp and what everyone's doing, so that they can visualize it a little bit more. Practicing overnights away from home, that's a great way to prep for camp, and to work on those essential function items that we went through. Transitions, there's unfortunately just the nature of summer camp. With a jam-packed schedule, there's lots of transitions. So we give reminders, we, grabbing their water bottles, 5-minute countdowns, things as needed. But the more, if that's something your students struggle with, the more you can practice those before camp, the better. Reviewing the website, going through that, making sure they understand that they're always going to have staff with them, going through the electronic device policies, giving them all that information and tools ahead of time can help them feel much more confident, like they know how, like what's to be expected as well. And then showing confidence and consistent and positive messages about your student going to camp is huge. So if you're nervous, hide. That's okay. That can be normal too for parents to be nervous for their first summer camp for students. But if you can internalize it a little bit more and on the outside just be really excited, like this is STAR summer camp, the staff are all trained really well and we trust them, and like the more you're like excited about the schedule and look at all the cool things you get to do and the people you get to meet, the more the student is going to feel confident. And then of course including them in packing and preparing so they know when they get to camp what's in their bag and all the different things that they'll have to make them feel comfortable at home. That can be helpful. Okay, lottery admissions. So the application is going to open on Monday, January 8th. We have, it's all lottery based. So we randomize placement every year, and that's truly lottery based. We have 63 spots and we usually get about 120 applications. So that'll give you an idea of what our wait lists look like and our percentage of placement. We do take a small percentage, usually it's about 20% of spots that are reserved for first-time attendees. So we take everyone who's never been to STARS and we randomize the first 20% of spots. And then after that, the remaining 80% of spots is both included returners and first-time attendees and randomized, and everyone's placed in there. So even though we reserve some spots for first-time attendees to make sure we're getting those who've never been to camp to come, it's still lottery based and randomized within each of those categories. And then the remaining spots are both returners and first time attendees, open up to everyone. The deadline, so it's not first come first serve. You have 3 weeks to submit it, but we are really strict about that deadline. So it will close usually end of business day on Friday, January 26th. Separate applications for each young scholar student. We do not, siblings are entered separately, and so we do our best to see, where people are getting placed to try and get families with siblings, either both on the wait list or both in, or like things like that. But we randomize it and we want to keep that fair. And so unfortunately it is separate. And sometimes we do have families who have students get in, one's in and one is on wait list. However, I will say movement happens every year, some years more than others, but we have students who move on and off the wait list every year. So if you get on the wait list, do not feel discouraged, as we do have movement. So you'll just want to make sure you review those essential functions in the website with your student, and then you apply online. Most of the questions parents answer. There is one question a student needs to answer, and we can tell when parents write those instead of students. We really want that to be in the student's own words. So even if you ask them in the morning while they're doing breakfast and you remember what they say and then you're typing it, that's okay, but we want to hear what the students have to say for that one question. And then if your student is 11 years old, We do not allow students to do both STARS and REACH due to the popularity of the programs and spaces available. We want to give as many young scholars the opportunity to attend one or the other. So they'll need to pick. Please reach out to us if you're not sure which one your student should be applying for. So again, prep by reading that website. You'll be applying online. We then review all the applications and we reach out to families if we have questions. So it's a lot about the eligibility and if your student's ready. And we want you to be honest with what they may struggle or be confident in. And then if we have questions, we reach out just to have a great conversation about making sure if your student's going to be successful at camp. Then we let everyone know if they're eligible to be in the lottery by February 1st. Then the next day you get to find out if your student got a spot in the program or on the wait list from the lottery. And then deposits are due about a week later on February 9th. And that is pretty strict because we do have such a big wait list. We need to have that deposit payment in by February 9th. Okay, went a little bit long. Wanted to make sure I got all that information out to you guys. So I appreciate your patience. We'll answer some Q&A live here. And if we don't get to your questions, please email us because we'd love to follow up with you. Our email's right here and our phone number. And if you do have a Young Scholar application question, that email is up there as well. So I'll open that Q&A box. Again, Avery's been typing responses to a lot of those, so please check and see if your question has been responded to via typed answer, but otherwise I'll jump into responding to some of them live. Okay, when is registration due and where's the link? Great question. We just talked about that. Avery, I believe, may have already sent it in the chat. I didn't quite ask her to, but she can resend it now. The admissions page is there. The link's not there right now because it's not open. It doesn't open until Monday, January 8th, but you can check out the how to apply page, the steps there, and that's where the link will be live on Monday, January 8th. Okay, I see this is being recorded. Will a link be provided to watch later? I'm having technical issues with my computer and can't hear. Great question. I believe Arlene is going to be sending out the recording. We'll definitely be posting a link on the STARS homepage, but I'll just call out Arlene to post in the chat on whether attendees who are registered will also just automatically receive an email with the recording. I believe they will. So we'll check in the chat in a minute to see if she has an answer for that one. Okay, is bringing a toy like a Rubik's Cube allowed? Yes, if your student needs a book or a fidget toy or things like that, they can definitely bring those. If they're one that's going to really lose it and they're going to be really upset about that, maybe consider having conversations with them or having them bring a little backpack they can wear during the day, which can be really helpful because we make them carry their water bottles everywhere because it's hot and dry. But they can bring their book or toy in their backpack. But yeah, that's common. Students bring things from home like that all the time, label it with their name, and then just have lots of good conversations with them about making sure they put it in their bag or keep it in their dorm room. And our staff do our best to make sure students aren't losing items, but it could happen as well. Arlene did confirm a recording will be sent out within the next 24 hours. So that will be sent to all registered attendees, and then we'll link it on the STARS homepage. Okay. Oops. Okay, wheelchair accessibility and transportation. Will my student be able to attend with a wheelchair, and will he be able to access rooms, transportation, etc.? That's a great question. So, I mean, we're on the University of Nevada, Reno campus, and it is all buildings are coded to be wheelchair accessible. So yes, definitely your student would be able to attend. I would just encourage reaching out to us via email. We haven't actually had a student attend who's been in a wheelchair, but we have had students who have attended with like broken legs and a scooter kind of thing. So we've had some experience with that. However, like I said, it's a university campus and it's all coded to be wheelchair accessible. And so we can, if your student gets into STARS, we can totally talk through the best ways to prep for them to come. And so transportation is on families to travel to and from. We don't transport students unless cases of emergencies. In that case, it would be likely a ambulance or something like that, which again also we have don't, that typically isn't something happening, but we don't transport students, we walk everywhere, and so the wheelchair should be able to come along with us, obviously, and so that shouldn't be an issue. But you will have to set up your own travel. So but please email us. I'd love to have a conversation about what more prep we can do for a student in a wheelchair. Okay, we'll get through a couple more and then we'll jump off. If one sibling is in STARS and one is in REACH, will they have opportunities to interact during the days of camp? So STARS and REACH do not overlap. It's a great question. STARS is the week before the summit, Sunday the 16th through Thursday the 20th. And then the summit event is over the weekend, Thursday the 20th through Sunday the 23rd. And then REACH starts on Sunday the 23rd through Friday, I think it's the 28th. So they don't overlap. So that's a great question. We wouldn't be able to fit in our dorm floor if they overlapped. We'd have to hire double staff and stuff like that too. So they won't interact, but they can interact with each other during the summit if you stay in between and things like that. Okay, and then last question, and then we'll jump off here. I'll pass it back to Arlene in just a minute. How long into the future after February 2nd will you continue to notify about movement off the wait list? That's a great question. So typically, most of that movement isn't happening until after the deposit payment on February 9th. So that's due the 9th, and then we follow up with any families, and that following week potentially could send out our first round of movement unless somebody dropped earlier than the 9th and we already can notify a family, we will. But most of those movement emails will come after February 9th. And then we've had movement as late as into April. So the final tuition payment is due end of April 26th. And families will forfeit part of their deposit if we can fill their student spot with somebody from the wait list, and so they'll drop as late as into April. We'd like to avoid that because we want to get families who are on the wait list notified and get them a spot in the program sooner than later. So we really encourage families to not to commit with that deposit if they can, and if they can't at that point to drop. But movement definitely does happen and can happen as late as April. Majority of it's happening in February and March. Okay, awesome. So if you had any questions that didn't get answered, or you still have follow-up remaining questions, again, our email is right here, stars@davidsongifted.org, and we'll get back to you in within one to a couple business days, or you can also call us and we can talk to you there. And we just really look forward to answering your questions because we're excited about camp and want to make sure parents and students are prepared. So Arlene, I'll pass it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla, for sharing this information about STARS and addressing questions from our audience. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Please remember to do the survey after the session closes. And if you would like to view the session again, we will be sending out the recording within 24 hours, and it will also be posted on the Davidson Gifted website. All right, everyone, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.